Chapter 1. Lemonade. Something felt off that day. I'd been feeling strange for weeks. Lightheadedness would hit me out of nowhere, making me feel like I was riding an elevator up and down repeatedly. My head throbbed with migraines that seemed to come and go constantly, and my energy levels were becoming increasingly sporadic. I tried to shake it off, chalking it up to the summer heat or maybe not drinking enough water. I didn't want to let my team down, so I pushed through. My AAU baseball team consisted of the top 14 and 15-year-old players in the area. I began the season playing first base and batting third in the lineup, just as I had in ninth grade a few months before. I was reliable, and if the game was on the line, I was one of the players my teammates and coaches trusted. The opposing team's leadoff batter made contact. It was a slow roller toward the left side. The third baseman fielded the grounder and zipped the ball my way. It was a routine play, almost automatic. But this time, I didn't feel the ball collide with my glove. Instead, it hit me square in the chest. What the hell just happened? I thought, as the runner crossed the base. I picked up the ball and threw it back to our pitcher. "Time!" our coach shouted. He hopped out of the dugout and headed toward me. "You all right, kid?" I nodded, but honestly, I wasn't sure. I was confused. I had been lightheaded earlier that day and had a headache when I first walked into the dugout. But I didn't understand how I hadn't caught the ball. My chest didn't even hurt. In fact, I didn't remember feeling any pain from the impact. Our third baseman had a cannon for an arm. It was strange. I nodded, but honestly, I wasn't sure. I was confused. I had been lightheaded earlier that day and had a headache when I first walked into the dugout. But I didn't understand how I hadn't caught the ball. My chest didn't even hurt. In fact, I didn't remember feeling any pain from the impact. Our third baseman had a cannon for an arm. It was strange. The coach signaled for a substitution. As I walked to the bench, I caught a glimpse of my mom in the bleachers. She looked concerned. The coach and I were, too. The uncharacteristic play on the field, combined with the other issues I'd been having, was alarming. The bruise on my chest was hardly the main concern. My parents had noticed how I'd been dragging myself around the house and how frequently I was getting headaches. I was usually an upbeat kid, active, competitive, and always ready to argue with my older brother. He was a well-known cheater in sports throughout the neighborhood, but that's beside the point. My mom had me in a doctor's office first thing Monday morning. The nurse took my vitals, asked a series of questions, and scribbled notes on her clipboard. When the doctor came in, he listened carefully as my mom listed everything: the lightheadedness, the fatigue, the migraines, and now the missed catch. "Sounds like you've been having a rough few weeks," the doctor said kindly. I shrugged. "We're going to run some tests to see what's going on," he continued. "It could be something simple, dehydration or maybe a virus, but we'll take a closer look." I didn't realize it at the time, but that appointment would mark the beginning of a journey that would significantly change my life. Blood work, MRIs, and more doctor visits, all of it blurred together. I first saw a family doctor. She sent me to a neurologist. He sent me to an optometrist. She sent me to another team of optometrists, specialists, and neurologists at a large office in downtown Philadelphia. She sent me to another team of optometrists, specialists, and neurologists at a large office in downtown Philadelphia. Looking back now, that missed catch was more than just an error in a game. It was the moment my ball started rolling in a new direction, setting me on a path filled with challenges I never saw coming. But along the way, I also learned resilience, grit, and how to adapt. Those lessons would shape me not just as an athlete, but as a young man. When I walked into the specialist's office, I had no idea why we were even there. Sure, my vision had been a little off lately, but it didn't seem like the root of my problems. After what felt like hours of tests, moving floor to floor and room to room, we were finally sent to meet with the neurologist. His office was nothing like the sterile exam rooms I'd just been in. It was more like a museum. Degrees and awards covered every inch of the walls, and his desk was buried under stacks of papers and books. He looked like he'd been doing this forever. Silver hair, a neatly trimmed beard, and an air of authority that told you he knew his stuff. He greeted us warmly, but got straight to the point. Pulling a small voice recorder from his desk drawer, he clicked it on and began rattling off notes, narrating the story of my case out loud. He went through the results of every test I'd taken, including some from earlier appointments. My parents listened intently, their faces a mix of concern and determination. I just sat there, trying to keep up. Then he said it. Optic neuritis. You have a condition that makes the ball appear farther away than it really is. He explained that inflammation in the optic nerve was affecting my depth perception and contributing to some of my vision problems. That alone sounded serious. But then he continued. Visual symptoms are common in MS, multiple sclerosis. The National MS Society notes that optic neuritis is the presenting symptom in approximately 25% of MS patients, and around 50% of patients will experience it at some point during the disease. Temporary loss or disturbance of vision, as well as color desaturation, may occur. Optic neuritis typically develops quickly and usually improves without treatment. When we combine this with the other symptoms you've described and the results of your MRI, it's clear that we're looking at multiple sclerosis. He said it calmly, as if reading from a list. Then he clicked off the recorder and looked up, his eyes meeting mine for the first time since he walked in. Multiple sclerosis, he repeated, as if saying it a second time would help it land. He went on to explain that MS is an unpredictable disease of the central nervous system, one that affects the brain, spinal cord, and optic nerves, which govern everything we do. The disease disrupts the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. An individual's experience with MS can change from day to day and year to year. Symptoms vary from person to person and can include fatigue, memory difficulties, mood changes, mobility issues, numbness, pain, tingling, and vision impairment. My mom's face tightened, her eyes darting between the doctor and me. My dad leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. I felt like someone had pressed pause on the world. MS? I had heard of it, but I didn't know anything about it. My stomach dropped. The neurologist's voice softened as he described how MS would likely change things for me. He talked about treatments, medications, therapy, and lifestyle adjustments, all designed to manage the disease and slow its progression. This will require some changes, he said, but it doesn't mean you can't live a full life. He prescribed a 5-day course of IV steroids called Solomedrol to help treat my symptoms and calm the MS flare-up. I had no idea what an exacerbation was at the time, but he explained it plainly. Some of your symptoms will improve quickly with this treatment. Others might not. His words didn't fully sink in right away. I was too busy staring into space, my mind spinning. Meanwhile, my parents kept asking question after question, trying to wrap their heads around what was happening. I stayed silent. I didn't even know what to ask. MS? Steroids? Less active? What did any of it mean for me? All I knew was that this was serious. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on all of us. Then the doctor said something that stuck. Your case is rare. He explained that as a young black male living far from the equator, my diagnosis wasn't typical. Geography and other factors play a role, he said. But what matters now is how we manage it moving forward. Manage it. That sounded like a polished way of saying, your life is about to change. And it was. The doctor didn't sugarcoat anything. He told me I'd likely continue experiencing symptoms like fatigue, vision problems, and muscle weakness. Your lifestyle will need to adjust over time, he said. It's unlikely you'll be able to maintain the same level of physical activity. Then came the gut punch. I don't have many patients who play competitive sports. It's improbable that your body will allow you to continue playing. That one hurt. Baseball wasn't just a sport to me. It was my identity. The idea that I might not be able to play anymore felt like a door slamming shut on everything I'd worked for. But even as that fear set in, I felt a small flicker of optimism. I wasn't ready to give up. I had the support of my friends, teammates, and coaches, and that gave me something to hold on to. We were silent walking out of his office. The gravity of the moment settled over all of us differently. My mom broke the silence first as we reached the car. "We're going to figure this out," she said, her voice steady but laced with emotion. My dad nodded, his usual stoic composure firmly in place. "You'll be back on the field in no time." I nodded, too, though inside I was scared. How was I supposed to process this? I was just 14, an athlete, someone who had always relied on his body to perform, to compete, to define who he was. Now it felt like my body was betraying me. We didn't talk much on the ride home. The car stayed quiet until we crossed the bridge over the Delaware River back into New Jersey. That's when my dad pressed play on the DMX cassette tape. My parents loved DMX. His music had a way of recentering them. I went straight to my room when we got home. I sat for a moment, staring at the trophies and awards I'd collected over the years. My favorite was a game ball from about a year earlier. I'd gone 5 for 5 with 8 RBIs in a junior district final, 2 triples and 2 doubles. My parents had surprised me before that game with a brand new Easton Z-Core bat. I didn't have any trouble seeing the ball that night. My parents threw themselves into research, reading everything they could find about MS. They reached out to support groups, called doctors, and made plans. My mom became a walking encyclopedia of MS facts, while my dad focused on keeping things as normal as possible at home, which meant talking sports, analyzing games, and driving around to watch him play slow-pitch softball. I did the IV treatments at home. A nurse came on the first day to insert the line, but my mom handled the daily setup from there. For 5 straight days, I sat with a needle in my arm, waiting for the medicine to do its work. Each session lasted about an hour, and with the line in, I couldn't do much during that time. I watched a couple of games from the dugout, but couldn't practice. It was a long week. As soon as the treatment ended, though, I was cleared to return to the field. I was as rusty as expected. And remember, this wasn't recreational ball. I was playing with and against some of the best 15-year-olds around, and I was 14. When Coach worked me back into the lineup, I quickly realized that everything felt different. I was struggling, and there's no nicer way to put it. I wasn't seeing the ball well, my timing was off, and plays that used to be automatic were suddenly a challenge. I wasn't the all-star caliber player I used to be, and there was no hiding it. My confidence was shot. I was expected to hold down first base, hit the ball hard, and be in scoring position when our cleanup hitter came up. Instead, game after game, I fell short. Every missed catch and every strikeout chipped away at me. My teammates didn't say much, but I could feel their disappointment. They had no way of understanding what I was dealing with. MS is often called an invisible disease because the struggles aren't always visible to others. Those guys just wanted to win. Some of them were future pros with their eyes on the national tournament. Even Coach, who had also managed my freshman team, started hesitating when he wrote out the lineup. I dropped to the bottom of the order and became a utility player for the rest of the season. It felt like he was playing me out of pity. Still, by one of the final games late in the season, shortly after we returned from the national tournament, something shifted. I was hitting the ball hard in batting practice, and the coach slid me back into the third spot in the lineup for the second game of a doubleheader. Our first 2 batters reached second and third, setting the stage for me. I felt a mix of nerves and excitement as I stepped to the plate. The first pitch was in the dirt, the second a fastball out of the zone. With a 2-0 count, I stepped out of the box, took a couple of practice swings, and glanced at the third base coach. He flashed the green light. "Load up on one," he called out. He knew a hittable pitch was coming. I took a deep breath and stepped back in. I expected a fastball and got exactly that. I've always had a nice swing. I'm a lefty, and while I didn't hit many home runs, I consistently made hard contact. This pitch was belt high over the inner half of the plate, and I let it rip. Ping! The ball jumped off the bat, climbing in a line drive that kept rising until it cleared the right field fence. It felt incredible, one of the most memorable hits of my life. After the game, a teammate's dad stepped into the dugout. "Kyle," he called, waving me over. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" He was a heavy-set Italian guy whose accent sounded straight out of Long Island. He always wore sunglasses and gold jewelry, the kind of guy who could have had a cameo in Goodfellas. "You know, you're inspiring a lot of people out here," he began. I blinked. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "Look, we know you ain't playing the way you used to, but you're still out here giving it everything you've got. That takes guts. You're showing the team and the parents that you ain't no quitter." I noticed he said, "quitter," and I smiled. "That's funny to you? You think I talk funny?" He squared up. I froze. "Just kidding," he said. I exhaled. "And let me tell you something else." He leaned in. "You've still got the prettiest left-handed swing I've ever seen. It's a thing of beauty, kid." He paused, then added, "Life's going to throw you a lot of curveballs." He caught himself and laughed. "You can laugh at that one. It does sound funny when I say it." We both smiled. "You've been throwing a nasty one with this MS thing. But you are out here making lemonade." I was lost. Lemonade? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. You ever heard that before? I shook my head. "You gotta get out more, kid," he said, laughing. "When things get hard, you find a way to push through. And when it's all done, you have yourself a glass of lemonade. Proud of you, kid." He finished and walked away. Football season started just a few weeks after baseball wrapped up. The thought of not playing never felt like an option. Not because of anything anyone said to me, but because the field was where I belonged. I played on the freshman team at Highland High School the year before. I was a little shorter than some of the other linemen and wasn't very aggressive early on, but I could move, had some explosiveness, and showed potential. When our school district split, my brother and I ended up at the brand-new Timber Creek High School in Ariel, New Jersey. I started in the school's very first game on the offensive line, lined up next to my big brother, Keith. It was his junior year and my sophomore year. I was also the punter. It was my first season playing football since my MS diagnosis. None of us, my parents, my coaches, or I, knew how my symptoms might affect me in live competition. The first day of classes was delayed due to construction, so on the Tuesday before our opening game, I was still in bed when my friend Eric called the house. "Turn on the TV," he said, sounding panicked. "Huh? Why?" I mumbled, half asleep. "Just do it." Every channel was showing the same footage, a plane crash. "Is this a movie or something?" I asked, flipping through the channels. "No, that's live," he shouted. He was right. I turned up the volume just in time to hear the anchors yelling over each other, and then the second plane hit. "Oh, shit," we both said at the same time. "I'll call you back." I hung up, ran to wake Keith, and we watched the next few hours in silence. Practice was canceled. Nobody felt like doing anything that day. By the end of the week, though, the coaches told us the game would go on as planned that Saturday. The pregame atmosphere was heavy. The crowd filled with flags, chants, and raw emotion. I played offensive tackle. Keith played guard. Lined up against us were two of the state's best defensive linemen. Some plays, I held my own. Others made it clear I didn't belong out there. They were bigger, faster, and stronger. By the second quarter, I felt weak, had a migraine, and noticed a red tint creeping into my vision in my left eye. "Yo, you all right? You gotta move," Keith said as we came to the sideline. "I don't know. I might not be," I admitted. "If you ain't good, say something," he told me. "We're trying to win." If you can't go, someone else needs to step in. Does Gerald give us a better shot right now?" I didn't answer. "Coach, we got to get Kyle out," Keith shouted. The trainers came over, my pads came off, and that was it for the day. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. We lost by a lot. By Monday, I felt back to normal, sitting in my neurologist's office with my mom. "What happened?" the doctor asked. "I was getting my ass kicked out there. Sorry, Mom. But after about 20 plays, I couldn't move my feet. My legs felt heavy, my vision got blurry, and when I bent my head down, it got worse." "What do you mean, worse?" "It felt like my spine was vibrating," I said. My mom laughed, but I was serious. "I actually know what you're describing," the doctor said. He ran me through the usual tests. Touch your nose, walk the line, read the chart. Everything checked out. "Here's the deal," he said. "If you overheat or overexert yourself, this will happen again. But it won't make your MS worse. These are usually temporary flare-ups. I say usually because occasionally they do require treatment, but the symptoms are rarely permanent." "Really?" my mom asked, skeptical. "Yes. I'm clearing Kyle to play. But you need to decide how much football really means to you. There will be bad days, but if you can manage your pace, you can keep playing. Honestly, I'm impressed you've made it this far." "I know that's right," my mom said. That was all the approval I needed. The next day, I met with the coaches and trainer. They were surprised that I still wanted to play, but they fully backed me. The plan was to focus on kicking and punting. My dad, a former all-state kicker, came to every practice to work with me. That lasted 2 practices. Standing around wasn't in my nature. I missed the contact and the competition. By day 3, I had snuck onto the scout team, helping the varsity get better reps. If I couldn't play full-time, I could at least help my teammates. The coaches noticed. I gradually worked my way back onto defense, rotating in and out of the action. By the end of the season, I was kicking, punting, backing up on the defensive line, and sometimes lining up right next to Keith again. 2001 was a bitter year, in many ways, but learning to focus on the sweet parts would shape how I saw everything that came after.